All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Elder Scrolls Online video. So today I wanted to share one of my Infinite Archive builds, simply because with the update 43, they made a few changes to Infinite Archive. They added a few new arenas, they added some new like visions, verses, and all that stuff. So more achievements to get and just things to change. So I wanted to share one of my older builds. I actually play it on a lot of different classes. I think Sorc is my favorite, followed by DK as a tank. And I'll have another video coming up shortly of us doing the full run. And so the build that I use is more for long pushes. You could do this solo, but obviously it works better in a group. So that's why I have this updated for the new update 43. So let's get into it. I'll talk about everything you need to know, the skills, the gear, of course, the enchants, why I have everything. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop in the comments as well. So ideally this works better in a group, but you could do it solo. If you have a tank with you, that's preferable. So the gear I use is pearlescent and where is it? Boots of disdain, or not the boots, but like the serpent's disdain. And the reason why is because in Infinite Archive, there's a lot of utility that you need. And of course, the goal of this is going to be status effects. So one of the visions you're going to be looking for is this one, which is increase the effect of ailments and status effects. So that's basically you're debuffing the enemy's resist to 0, and then that makes you clear faster, as well as you do a little bit more with like your enchant weapon, whether it's in fire, poison, whatever. So this is like the primary thing. You want to stack as many of those as you can. So as you guys know, in the archive you start from 1 every time. I would say in the first like 4 or 5 arcs is super easy, especially if you're playing with someone else who's also good. So you don't have to start this one with this build. You could just use whatever you're doing. So I guess, like, you know, if you're a beginner and you don't know how to play it, I would just go with your standard Oaken Sorc. It's not the most damage, but it is literally just 1 button, and then that one is super simple for clearing the first few arcs, and then you'll be fine, just more damage. But as you get into the higher arcs and everything is where you kind of have to start speccing into defensives and, of course, the vision that I told you. So you build a little bit differently. So let's assume you're, I don't know, starting at like arc 6 all the way going to like 10 and up. This is what we have. Let me show you a superstar in case this is all you care about. So this is what I have. We have a mix of heavy, light, and medium. You could change the shoulders to whatever you want, but this is just what I have because I wanted a little bit of mix of stats and everything. I have tested it with 64 health versus 64 magic or any other combination of sources, but I figured that just having more resources to do everything is just a little bit more useful than having a big tank, no damage kind of thing. But if you're like starting out and you don't know how well you can survive, you could put a mix of stats into everything else. Other than that, we're using basically tri-stat food, the Bewitched Sugar Skulls, and just because we want a mix of all the stats and recovery, it's always nice. So, okay, let's get into the gear. So we're using Pearlescent because this one just, you know, increases your spell damage and up to the number of group members. And then, obviously, if you're doing this solo, you probably will want a companion, or you could use something else. But the idea, for the most part, is that healing taken, always it's going to be huge, and health, and grants minor aegis at all times, reducing your damage taken. So even if you have a tank at the higher arcs, you never know, you just get hit by like random things that do a lot of damage. So we want to reduce the amount of damage you take, and survivability is the most important thing. If you guys have ever played the Call of Duty Zombies back in the day, you guys know that it's not about like how much damage you do, it's about kiting things, and surviving is the most important thing, right? So that's why we have this one. And then Serpent's Disdain is just resources, increase the duration of status effects, which is kind of the build. And of course we have the Death Dealer's Feet, just because it stacks with more resources. you could swap this one out for like whatever you like. If you want, you know, like marking for more damage, or, you know, like, I wouldn't use Oaken or Pale Order in groups, but I guess it's okay. Like, you could do this early on, Oaken for beginning arcs, and then Pale Order, I guess, if you're playing solo, that's probably fine-ish, but I don't think you really need it. But so yeah, Death Dealer's Feet is probably one thing. If you don't want this one, you could just add another Pearlescent Ring, and then you could swap this one out and have a monster set helm if you want to. But we have this for the crit chance. Ideally, Minor Berserk is nice, but like, it's, once again, it's not really about the damage. It's more about the survivability kind of thing. And then for our weapons, we have an Inferno Staff and an Ice Staff. Ice Staff is obviously more defensive, and Inferno is for boosting out the elemental, like, enchant damage, right? So yeah, that's what we have, and so that's what it's all about. Let's talk about the skills now. So Crystal Frags, obviously you need some damage to as well. Crushing Shock, interrupting is probably the most important thing in the archive, especially if like you're playing solo, but even as a group, helping the tank out is really nice. So interrupting, also very handy. Elemental susceptibility is reducing a little bit of the defenses, but if you have a tank, obviously they do that too. But ideally you use it for the damage as well. So adding the elemental, like burning, shielding, concussion status effects is always good. Daedric Prey, admittedly I have two separate builds where like I do use pets for other things. So if you're using pets early on for like the first few arcs, that's fine. But then once you get to the later ones, Haunting Curse, which is the other morph, would probably be a little bit better. But either way, it's like, it's not a big deal. And then Bound Aegis for your max magic and then your defensives. Backbar, Crit Surge. This is a huge protection, like self-heal on damage and crits and everything. Unstable Wall of Frost is super helpful when just chill enemies and then do a little bit of damage on the side. Lightning Flood is, it's more of like, if you play in a group and then everything is grouped up together, your tank is like putting them together, you can AoE it down. I think this is a flex spot, a flex skill that you could change out. Hurricane is just more defensive, and of course it just AoE damages, which is nice, and another Bound Aegis on the back. So you could probably swap out a few things if you feel like you need it, and like for more defense or offensive if you feel like it. Back bar, we have the Elemental Storm. It's just a Destro ult, and then the front bar we have the Charged Atro for the AoE version, which is the like this one, and not the single target one, because Infinite Archive is all about AoE clearing anyway. So yeah, that's what it is. And then this is ideally supposed to go for full arcs on like the higher ones. So once again, the important thing to look for is this vision, which boosts it. And I guess I think I forgot to say it, but the Crusher enchant reduces the physical and spell resistance by 1622 plus that vision, and then like when you stack it, it's basically like going even further, which is always nice. And so the champion points that I chose here are Fighting Finesse. This is more just like straight offensive, and then light and heavy attacks, more damage. Damage against off-balance enemies, which your tank should be doing, plus you should be doing. And single target is like, you know, your elemental susceptibility, crushing, and everything. And crit damage is always nice. Red ones, we have more health, more armor. You could swap out Spirit Mastery if you're playing solo, but like, you know, it's kind of like if something does happen, you do want to res quickly, but this one is definitely a changeable one. And magical per stage when you kill an enemy. So the one I would recommend, if you are like, if both players are very good and just don't die, swap this out for literally like at regen or more stamina if you felt like you need it. But yeah, that's my build, and overall it seems to work out. So here's what I would do if you're going into the archive, and then what I would do is swap out this one. You could use your good old Oaken Soul setup, default, like, you know, double pets and everything. So this one is definitely good to get or like blast through the first few arcs super easily, whether you're solo or duos. And then once things start getting a little bit tricky past, like, I don't know, arc 5 is when all the mechanics start popping up. I would recommend switching over to your more like tailored towards defensive and just more utilities kind of thing. So this isn't like super high damage output. It's more survivable and utilities. So like you're always interrupting, you're debuffing the enemies to 0, and then you're like kiting them in circles to AoE it. So basically, if you played Call of Duty Zombies, and then it's not like the super fast one, but it's good to push higher arcs safely in a way. So yeah, that's one of my builds. You could swap out a few things if you don't feel like you need Aegis, or if you're getting stuck in everything. You could, Power Overload is kind of fun to use. How effective is it? It depends on how far you get, but like once you get to the higher arcs, things are so tanky that it's like you could dump 500 ult and you still won't get everything. You could use Mage's Wrath instead of Crystal Frags, but that's again once an execute versus overall like consistent damage versus execute spike damage kind of thing. So I'd always rather have a consistent flow of damage versus big damage only at the end and execute. Streak is also an option, but like if you're doing things properly and if you have a duo tank with you, you don't really need it. Some other things you could do, you could, if you decide you want to go like daggers in the front, which I don't think it really works out this well, Blade Cloak, but aside from that, you could always swap it out if you feel like you want Destro in front and Thing in the back for a little bit different kinds of damage. You could do that. Also, you could go double Inferno if you wanted to, but I felt like the Inferno and Ice are just the safe routes. So anyway, that's the build. I think I talked about everything. Let me show you the Superstar one more time, just in case you guys want to take a screenshot. Wanda Stone. This could be swapped out for literally anything, like more magic, more health, I think. But I just chose this one because I'm kind of lazy and I use my sword for multiple things like endgame trials, dungeons, and everything. So I'm just kind of lazy. But if you're doing one specific thing, swap out. And I'd probably recommend more health just to be a little bit safer. But if you want more damage, it's always fine. And yeah, that's about what I chose. And I talked about some of the replacements you can get. Oh yeah, I guess I should talk about this one before we head out. I chose 2 Swift rings, or like the 2 what is it? Yeah, 2 Swift for more movement speed, because you're going to be cutting things faster, like in a circle. So movement speed is actually very important. We have 1 stamina and 1 magicka recovery. Those could be swapped out with more damage if you felt like you need it. And Death Dealer's Feet is a little bit mix of damage. You could swap this out for another Swift one if you want, for like fat movement speed, which is also really nice. It's actually kind of fun, to be honest, plus all your other stacked visions and everything. So yeah, you could have that one. I just chose for a little bit balance of damage, survivability, and everything else utilities. So yeah, this works for me. Got me to high arcs, and then it's all about how well you can kite things in a circle without making mistakes. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this build. I'll have another video coming up shortly of the tank one, and yeah, I should have another duo video coming out soon. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy that. And with that said, thanks so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Would love to see you come back. And I've been playing ESO for quite a while now, so I just like sharing my knowledge with you guys. If you're like a more casual player and you just want to watch the stories, I have every chapter from day 1. So yep, that's all. I'll see you guys later. Peace.